Welcome to Clear Creek. Silverdale's concrete jungle has built up along its banks for the past 30 years now, but a team of volunteers and a variety of projects have helped to restore its environmental health. I'm going to tell you 5 ways about how Clear Creek remains one of Kitsap County and indeed the Puget Sound region's most mighty creeks on this week's Beat Blast. Stay tuned. Welcome back to this edition of the Beat Blast, sponsored by the Admiral Theater. Story number 1 today, you might think that beavers are an impediment to salmon along the Clear Creek corridor, but not so. They actually play a huge role in the overall ecosystem here.
On the one hand, I'd say that beavers have this unique ability to create a lot of controversy, and yet they also have the ability to change ecosystems and connect ecosystems in a way that, in my opinion, no other animal can. So what I've noticed here specifically at Clear Creek is that since the beavers have been allowed a little bit more leeway, they've started connecting some habitats that were previously isolated. On the other side of the park, there's some wetlands that were kind of separated, and so those are starting to be connected, which allows for easier movement of fish and wildlife. Our watersheds are all fed by headwater wetlands and high groundwater tables, and so in those types of watersheds, it's especially important that we have beaver dams where we can, high in the watershed, to retain water. That helps to recharge the groundwater table, and it also helps to meter the flow into the stream, especially during the summer months when a lot of our streams go dry that don't have beaver dams high in the watershed. So that helps to make sure that there's flows in the summer and in the early fall when we start to see adult salmon returning.
Story number 2, Clear Creek cuts a path from Dyes Inlet north right behind me. Now, Clear Creek, just like other streams and rivers in western Washington state and indeed around the Pacific Northwest, comes from the Glacial Age.
This was all a glacial story that started about 16,000 years ago when there was about 3,000 feet of ice over our heads. The valley of Clear Creek that we're standing here is between 2 hills called drumlins, and we're in a trough, and if you imagine the glacier acted basically like a giant comb rolling over the landscape. And so this valley we're in is one of the troughs that was dug out by the glacier and laying down a layer of glacial till, which makes this wetland and keeps the water in and forms the watershed for Clear Creek. Clear Creek is just draining this valley, and it's creating these lush wetlands where the water's kind of pooling up and it drains into Dyes Inlet, and it's carrying all the cobbles down and creating the gravel beds for the salmon, and that's all again derived from the glacial till.
Story number 3, what about this task force that has been helping to restore Clear Creek? They've made it not only a wonderful trail network that we all use to get out into nature, but also help to restore the salmon runs that will make it viable economically for years to come.
So 25 years ago, the Clear Creek Trail encompassed from over there to about right over there. That was the trail. So now we have almost 8 miles of trail that go from Old Mill Park all the way up to Trigger. So, and you know, as land was made available to us, we built. No county funds go into this. It's all donors and volunteers that build and maintain the trail, and that's what makes it so special. That's the reason why Clear Creek was built, is to preserve the creek and protect the salmon. So we thought that people could enjoy the creek from the trail and not in the water.
Story number 4, with Silverdale's development, the Kitsat Mall was built in the early 1980s, and Chris Dunnigan was there. He's the longtime environmental reporter that I long was proud to call a colleague. Chris retired but continues to do environmental journalism around the Pacific Northwest. He's also watched as various volunteers and public and private agencies have come together to restore its environmental health.
There was a time when I thought it was going to be kind of ruined and it would never come back. But all of the efforts that you do in putting in all of the little estuaries and things adds to the water quality and to the structure of the stream, so you don't get the flooding that you used to have. I mean, there was times when it would flood in downtown Silverdale because so much water would rush down. Now this is a meandering stream right here at this wetlands, and it holds the water back, and it gives the salmon more of a good flow over time. And so I think we've come a long ways. One of the major things was when they built the Buckland Hill Bridge. that widened out the estuary, and that leaves, an estuary area is where salmon are able to transition from saltwater to freshwater without a sudden burst. Before there was a culvert there, and the salmon would have a shock to their system because they would be in salt water in 1 minute, and then they'd try to go through and they'd be pretty much in much fresher water. And now they can kind of, with a wide bridge there, they can sort of meander themselves up and back and adjust their systems.
And finally, story number 5, what's on tap for your weekend? Sponsored by Silver City Brewery Tap Room. This weekend at 1 p.m. on Saturday, join me at the Interpretive Center near the Buckland Hill Bridge, right here along Clear Creek, as we'll be doing a story walk. There will be 6 different stations of people, a whole buffet of information for you to learn, from the history of Silverdale to the estuaries and the redeveloping health of this mighty creek. Hope you can make it again 1 p.m. this Saturday. It's free and open to the public, but be prepared to walk up to a mile and wear some comfortable shoes. That's our show for this week. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to our sponsors. And of course, thank you to our subscribers to the Kitsap Sun. We could not do this without you. See you next time.